Yeah, first of all, thanks to everybody for being here. I know we've got a couple things going on this weekend that are of a fairly significant nature, including a football game on Saturday, but I do appreciate everybody coming out here today, and obviously we can talk about anything you guys want to talk about. We've got new players in the program. Our non-conference schedule is out, so a lot to talk about basketball-wise. But before I get to that, obviously I want to address that unfortunately I had a terrible incident personally in the spring with an arrest for driving under the influence, and really just horrible situation of which, I take very, very seriously the opportunity to be the head coach at Ohio State and how I represent the university, most importantly, the young women in our program. And to bring negativity to both the university and the people that are part of our women's basketball program was a really, really terrible situation for me. And no excuses, I made a horrible mistake. And because of that, I was suspended for 2 weeks after a conversation with Ross Bjork, our athletic director. Also, Ross wanted to ensure that, I was in a really good place to continue to move forward and be the leader of this program. So, I talked to some people at the Wexner Medical Center over the summer. That went great. I feel really good about where I am, where the program is, and ready to move forward and hopefully have another great season.
Questions? Hi, Coach.
Hi.
Just after the incident, what were the conversations like with the team, just talking to them about that?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is because I just care so much about our players, and they've poured so much into what we've built here at Ohio State. And, when situations like this arise, a lot of times it has to do with the timing of the rhythm of the school year. And, unfortunately, no one was here at that time, because I'm the type of person that, most things like that I would prefer to do in person. But since I couldn't do that with the players, I made sure that I was able to reach each of them individually with a phone call and have a conversation with them about what had happened and kind of how we're going to move forward.
Is there anything you can share about just the legal proceedings right now?
Yeah, great question. As you know, these things take time from a legal perspective, and I've got an excellent lawyer who's kind of guided me through the process. And we had a court date in August, which was, at his discretion, moved to a later date, and so we're still kind of ongoing in that process. And he's on it, though, in communication with the officials in Dublin to make sure we, get to the end of this, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Kevin, when you go through something like this, it usually makes you kind of reassess and get a new perspective. Do you have kind of a new perspective now going into this season because of what happened to you this offseason?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. Obviously, something of that nature does make you kind of reassess a lot of things, and want to just kind of reinforce, just how fortunate I think I am to be the head coach here, and how much I love it here, and how appreciative I am of the support that I've always gotten from the administration, and certainly in a tough time like this, it was, I really appreciate Ross stepping up and giving some great guidance to me to get through this process and get me to this point where we could move forward in a positive way. And but probably even more important than all that is just how much I really enjoy coaching the young women in our program, and how much I believe in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and just want to make sure I'm really ready to make sure I can give everything I can to these players, because that's what they deserve, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
And what would your response be to people who might be questioning your ability to lead this team moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, hey, everybody's allowed to have their opinion, and I understand that, but I can tell you that I've had a great summer, and our team has had a great summer, and I think collectively we're all in a good place, and we've had a lot of success here in our program, and I think that moving forward will be no different.
And now Labor Day weekend is coming up. It's one of the most dangerous drunk driving weekends. What would your message be for people to maybe learn from this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously everybody's got to take responsibility for themselves, starting with me, and but to be very careful and to make sure that you don't put yourself or others at risk, and that would be my message.
I know I asked what you said to the players, but what have the players just said to you after this, and what just messages have you gotten from the team?
The players have been great. I mean, I think they have been very supportive, and we've been very fortunate here to recruit terrific young women, and I've been fortunate to develop, I think, very positive, healthy relationships with them, so they've been supportive, and they want somebody that can invest and pour into them, and I think they've seen that this summer coming out of that situation, and that's what they're here for, and that's what they want, and they want to be coached, and I think, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they have confidence in my ability to lead them, but they've been supportive, and as we move forward.
This offseason, you also did lose Cody McMahon. She
Yeah.
transferred. Can you just talk about her transfer and that decision for her to move to a new program?
Yeah, no, we had 3 really good years with Cody. She's a great kid, and I wish her nothing but great success at Ole Miss. Outside of us potentially maybe playing them down the line, I hope she has a great year. And I think it was in her mind. I, once again, wouldn't speak for her, but just wanted one more opportunity to maybe showcase her skills and talents before she tries to move on to a professional career. And I think Ole Miss will be a great place for her to do that.
You mentioned you have 11 players. How has the chemistry been developing so far in these practices? And is anybody standing out and stepping up in that leadership role that Cody, that energetic, I'm going to drag you with me kind of role?
Yeah, no, we have a completely different team, because not only do we lose Cody, but Taylor Theory, who was here for 4 years and really instrumental in our success. And then Asia Petty had a really good year last year as well. And so I would say, generally speaking, we're probably not as athletic as we have been in the past. We might be a little bit more skilled. I think when you look at the players we've added, with Dasha, who's a freshman, she can really shoot the ball. Bren Martin from Springboro, Ohio, can really shoot the ball. Tiana Todd, who transferred from Boston College, can really shoot the ball. And then Kylie Kitts, who came from Florida, who's got a great skill set at 6'3" and can shoot it well. So I think we're going to look a little bit different, and maybe not make the athletic plays we have in the past, but maybe hang our hat on a little more of a team game and a little more of our skill set rather than just athleticism.
Is that going to change the defensive approach at all as far as the press?
No, we'll still press, and maybe it's not 40 minutes every night, but we're working on it. We practiced today, just got out of that, and we're working on it today, and so that'll still be a big part of the identity of this program.
Kevin, how do you get first-year players adjusted to your system and your pace of play?
Yeah, it's tough. Now, I do like the fact that we were able to have them for 8 weeks in the summer, and so we got off to a good start with that, and now we'll get basically the month of September before practice starts. But we have to do a good job as a staff and be very intentional of what we kind of work on now. And, maybe more so than other programs, we have to work on some of that stuff earlier than other people to make sure that we're ready when real games start in November.
Kennedy Cambridge is the only player on this roster to have not committed the program this year or last year. How much are you relying on Kennedy off the court, not just on the court?
Yeah, that's going to be another big piece of this team. I think we've got great young women, great kids. I think our chemistry and the culture could be a big strength of this year's team, but it's going to take some leadership. And I think Kennedy will be a big part of that. I think Chance Gray really needs to step up, even though this is only her second year in the program. This is her 4th year in college, and as an Ohio kid, I think she takes a lot of pride in coming back here from when she transferred from Oregon. And so I think Kennedy and Chance especially, and I even think Jelani, even though she's only in her 2nd year as a sophomore, she's such a great player, and she's going to have the ball in her hands so much. She needs to step up as well, and I think between the 3 of them, we really are going to kind of lean on them to get the leadership that we need.
Dasha went to the Webb School with your daughter. How much prior connection did you have with her, and what do you like from her game?
She's a great kid. She's got an incredible story. I mean, let's see, it's probably her 3rd year in the United States. If you go back to 4 years, she was living in Ukraine before her hometown got occupied by Russian forces, which it is currently to this day. And she and her family had to escape that, made their way to the United States, went to boarding school in Nashville, and we were fortunate enough to recruit her. So she's a great kid with a great story. She can really, really score the ball, which I think is going to allow her to really have a significant impact on us right away.
Kevin, I'm curious, did you ever think there was a time this summer you might not be the coach? And if so, I think sometimes when we're afraid of losing something, we have a newfound appreciation. I'm curious if you almost feel, not that you didn't appreciate the job always, but if you understand what I'm saying there.
Yeah, I think you go through something as traumatic as that, which is of my own doing, then sure, it certainly kind of makes you kind of reflect a little bit on the opportunity that you have to be here. And like I said, as anyone in college athletics would appreciate being in Ohio State, but especially someone who grew up in the state of Ohio, and being in women's basketball for over 30 years now, this is the only job I ever really wanted. So it did really kind of make me reflect a little bit, and I've always appreciated it, and probably have a little bit of a new sense of appreciation.
And I know every offseason in transfer era, NIL, it's a different game now. I'm just curious how you navigated this past 6 months or so. I mean, what has this been like?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, every year is going to be a little bit different, and I'm hopeful. Like we've been at our best with high school kids who have come here and developed over 3 and 4 years. I think J.C. Sheldon and Taylor Theory and young women like that are great examples of how we've been at our best. And so I'm hopeful that we can continue to do that. Now, by just the nature of college athletics, it's a little bit transient, and so you sort of have to recreate the team every year. But we want to hang our hat on high school kids who come here and develop. That's where we've been at our best. Now we will fill in with some transfers, and we've had a lot of success with that, quite frankly. And I think this year you'll see that with Chance and Kylie Kitts and Tiana, who will really help us. But it's difficult because you can't only have high school kids and then play against so many people who have gotten so many older transfers, and you be that younger team with high school kids. It's hard to compete that way. So there is a fine line and a balance to it, and I guess it's a reflection more of this job was the head coach of the women's basketball team, and now it's head coach / general manager, which you have to be good at that part of the job now too. And really, it's come on so quickly. I'm still kind of learning that part of it, but I think we've done pretty well given the resources that we have in NIL and rev share to put together a team that will be competitive this year.
What do you think attracted the 2 transfers this offseason come to Ohio State?
Yeah, I think that for both Kylie and Tiana, we had a specific need. Tiana kind of plays, she's a very different player than Cody, but will probably play a similar position. And so with Cody leaving, we had certainly had a need for that. And same thing with Kylie, she's very different from Taylor Theory, but very similar in terms of the position. So style of play and need were 2 really big things that I think helped draw both of them to our program.
I asked you a lot last season about the non-conference schedule and just the strength of it. You went this season, added UConn, added TCU. What was the decision to kind of book, I know you, especially UConn, and have those competitors in the non-conference schedule?
Yeah, it's one of the things is, as much as college athletics has changed with rev share and NIL, scheduling has really changed quite a bit too, from the standpoint of like the TCU game will be on Martin Luther King Day in New Jersey at this Coretta Scott King Classic, and there are a lot more events like that where our program, we may get paid to come be a part of it, and maybe on national TV, and they're great opportunities. So we've been doing more of those, and we're also going to the Bahamas, which is a great trip for young women in our program, to take them there. But the problem with a lot of all that is then you don't get great teams to come here to Shot or to Columbus where our fans can see. So we wanted to add a marquee game against a great non-conference opponent, and so we're going to go to Connecticut this year, and they'll come back the following year. It's just harder to do that with all these events where we can get paid, or they can be in cool locations, or they can be on national TV. But we don't want to neglect the fact that we've got great fans. We want to make sure they continue to come to the Shot and make this a great environment. And so that had a lot to do with why we scheduled Connecticut in a home and home.
What does a non-conference game against TCU in January do for you guys moving into that back half of the conference slate, then into the tournament?
Yeah, so TCU, obviously they went to the Elite 8 last year, and they graduated some good players, but man, they had a terrific offseason in bringing in incredible talent. So they're going to be a top probably 10 to 15 team in the country again. And so as we start to hit the kind of the meat of the Big Ten schedule, which is going to be just a gauntlet coming down the stretch, I think that'll be a great opportunity to us to test ourselves against a great opponent and continue to kind of kind of build this team and before we get to the end of the Big Ten schedule and the Big Ten tournament and then hopefully postseason play. So another great test for us as we get towards the end of the season.
After Bryn Martin decommitted from Washington, what was the timeline for you and the staff, and how quickly you tried to reach out to Bryn and bring her to Columbus?
Yeah, so we had tried to recruit Bryn before she committed to Washington, and she unfortunately committed there. And I don't want to speak for her, but I think as the season wore on, she's very close with her family, and I think when she really started to sink in that she was going to be 3,000 miles from home for her college career, she kind of started to have second thoughts. Fortunately, we had recruited her, so we knew her and her family, and they knew a lot about our program, and I think I had an idea maybe how she could fit in. And so as soon as she decommitted, we reached out to her AAU coach and her high school coach, and then were able to connect with her on the phone, and it didn't, just given the nature of when she did it, the timing, it didn't take a whole lot of time after that, and so we were really fortunate to bring her in. She's a great kid. I think everybody's going to love watching her play, and we're really happy to have her here.
Everyone good? Thanks everyone.
Awesome,
for being
thanks.
here.